Hey guys, Montel here, and welcome to this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. My guest today is a quadriplegic with muscular dystrophy who was sentenced to 15 years in a maximum security prison for a low-level drug offense. He suffered years of abuse and exploitation from the penal system and was eventually granted clemency by Governor Pataki after serving 10 years of his sentence. Since his release, he has dedicated his life to creating positive changes in communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. His story was featured in the PBS documentary, The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross. Now focused on treating a myriad of medical ailments, he's teamed up with freshly baked founders Jenny Roseman and Philip Smith to launch his IRONSYDZ brand of cannabis products in Massachusetts. Terrence Stevens, Phil Smith, thanks so much, guys, for being with me today on Let's Be Blunt with Montel.
Thank you for having us, Montel. Very excited. Pleasure to meet you.
Phil, good to see you again, sir.
Thank you, Montel. Always good to be with you, brother.
For 100% disclosure, we'll make sure people understand that I partnered up with Freshly Baked also in Massachusetts, and they are who are manufacturing and carrying my line of cannabis products in the Massachusetts area. So thanks so much, sir, for all the hard work that you guys have been doing for that and all the hard work that you continue to do. Terrence, let's start with you for a second, sir. Let's take us back for a second. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your story from the beginning, okay?
Yeah, sure. I was arrested for traveling with someone that possessed some narcotics inside the luggage bag, along with the identification inside the bag. I ended up being convicted for the low-level nonviolent drug offense, which was the Rockefeller drug laws. It was an A1 felony conviction, and I was sentenced to 15 years to life, virtually paralyzed from the neck down, and suffering from muscular dystrophy. So, um,
Wait, let's back up for a second. You said the substance was found in the other person's bag with their ID in the bag, and you still bore the brunt of such a conviction?
yes, yes, my case was crazy. I don't know how I was convicted under the circumstances of my case, and that's why we put forward such a fierce fight to repeal these laws, because the Rockefeller drug laws basically handcuff the prosecutors and I'm sorry, handcuff the judges, and it puts the power in the hand of the prosecutors, and the judge has no jurisdiction, no discretion to perhaps sentence a person in accordance with the role they played in the event they were guilty. All power is taken away from the judges, and the prosecutors have the power, and that's how I ended up receiving a 15-year life sentence.
Which is absolutely, I mean, crazy in a maximum security prison.
Yes, Montel, it was a nightmare. I was a total care patient. I had to be fed. I had to be bathed, assisted with wheelchair movement. The bathroom doorways inside the prison facility was not ADA compatible. So on occasions, we would have to urinate, defecate on ourselves because we couldn't fit through the bathroom doorways of many of the bathrooms. The water fountains was inaccessible. The prison yards was broken with concrete, and more importantly, Montel, the medical care was substandard and inadequate. It took them over 9 years before they finally taken me out to be treated by a muscular dystrophy doctor. So for 9 years, I was being treated by prison physicians that knew nothing about muscular dystrophy at all.
Well, I just, I'm so sorry, and I don't mean to laugh, and I'm not laughing. I think nervously chuckling in the sense that how dare they put you in a maximum security fucking prison? Excuse my mouth, but I mean, something's not right here. I mean, we know it's not right, but something just boggles the brain in trying to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah, it was a nightmare, Montel, and the medical care was substandard and inadequate. It caused my spine to kind of bend to the left, where I generated like a collapsed wall. So, it just was it was a nightmare.
And I guess during that period of time is it's just exacerbated. I can't imagine 1 second of this being normal in a sense, normal being in a prison. Can you talk a little bit about, your day to day? I mean, it could have been when that judge put that gavel down and said 15 years, what went through your brain?
I was devastated, Montel. At the time during my incarceration, I was actually placed in solitary confinement for 40 days. They released me 1 hour a day for 40 days for being physically unable to physically pull my pants down on the strip search procedure. So I was on a
Stop.
yeah, I'm
What?
telling hot nightmares, Montel. I was on a family visit, and one of the more harassing prison guards was like, "Oh, Stevens, you need to pull your pants down because we got to strip search you." And I was like, "Well, sir, I'm unable to physically pull." Oh, there's other guys in a wheelchair. Some of y'all lift weights and don't feed me the bull crap, Steven. You could pull your pants down. And I'm telling him I couldn't pull my pants down. So, we got into a little dispute about that. And he ended up taking me up to the pharmacy. I'm sorry, not the pharmacy, what do you call it? The hospital part, the infirmary. Took me
Mhm.
up to the infirmary, and they called some additional aides in. They called the sergeant. They harassed me for about an hour, and he ended up having one of the prison aides lift me up out my chair while another aide pulled my pants down, and he's looking at and I mean, I just felt so violated, Montel. And then on top of that, when they release me, I go back to my cell and they give me a misbehavior ticket saying that I'm keep like I have to go to solitary confinement for 40 days for failing to obey a direct order to pull my pants down. I
Uh,
mean, it's
Excuse me, did you have a public defender or did you have a lawyer at the time?
Well, at the time, I had a lawyer, but when you represented, once you get convicted and you're in prison, you have these like inmate grievance committees. And just so happened, one of the New York Times reporters heard about my case and came up to visit me. He ended up contacting Albany, and they verified that I'm the only inmate in the facility who's medically, physically unable to pull my pants down, but that didn't take place until weeks and weeks of me um being subjected to solitary confinement. I mean, it was a nightmare inside that place, my.
I sure hope that you have been able to sue them or something and get some sort of restitution out of this or no?
No, I receive executive clemency, and unfortunately, it's not like exoneration conviction. Executive clemency is when you serve half of your time, and then the governor ends up for good behavior, letting you out as a pardon for Christmas. But there's no compensation. There's no monetary value involved with clemency, executive clemency. So no, I
And
receive zero compensation.
I know your story has been chronicled in specials, but has anybody dug deep into what you had to live through while you were in that prison, and made note of the fact that this is just absolutely preposterous?
Yeah, I mean, we had people, come up and interview me, but it's once you get convicted, it's kind of hard, um, you know, getting them to admit that they made a mistake or getting you released. So, I ended up joining, being involved with a very special movement when I came on the Rockefeller drug law movement, and I was somewhat of a poster child then. And we went around advocating about these laws, and we was at the front line of the battlefields advocating for the Rockefeller laws way before the legalization of cannabis, came. And that was one of the fights that made it possible today for cannabis to be legalized, because we was on the battlegrounds for decades, trying to repeal these nonviolent drug offenses.
And Phil, how did you meet Terrence? How did the two of you guys connect?
Yeah, Montel, I was actually one of our dispensary partners, and I met a gentleman named Peter Greer that was very much involved in Terence's fight against the Rockefeller drug laws. And he told me Terence's story, and it blew me away. It blew me away immediately. I couldn't believe it. And then once I, met Terence, and then I heard, firsthand on what he's been through, I was arrested for cannabis, right after high school. I was that 1 in 4 statistic. I was the only person of color in that vehicle, and I got arrested. It could have went very differently for me than it did, and to hear about what Terrence went through just blew my mind. And like he said, um, since he's been out, he's only been helping people. And that's the thing with Terrence Stevens. He's only been helping people since he got out. He didn't have animosity. He wasn't, trying to go after folks. He was like, how can I help others who have been in this position? So, in cannabis, federal legalization has been, um, the promise of federal legalization has had a few different avenues, and one of them was helping folks that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And once I heard Terrence's story, it was a no-brainer, and that's how we got here.
Crazy. And now the two of you have partnered up. You're creating or actually producing a brand for Terrence, correct?
Yeah, so we helped Terrence develop his Ironsides brand, which we're very proud of. It's something that all of the cannabis companies should be trying to do is work with folks like Terrence Stevens to help them into the industry because that's a promise. But Terrence has an amazing brand, IRONSYDZ brand. He has an amazing product. We bombarded him with all types of gummies and edibles to get to a point, right, T?
Yeah, it was crazy. It
uh,
was crazy, man, testing all them different edibles, and I'm not a heavy marijuana user, but when I got home from release, I kind of got inspired, Montel, by you because I seen some interviews on the internet and whatnot, and how you was leading the charge with, having the cannabis treat your multiple sclerosis and how helpful that was, and I was just hoping and say, I wonder, always inspired me to want to get involved and see if the cannabis plant can help me with my muscular dystrophy and the pain and symptoms and anxiety and different things that I'm going through. And it ended up working. Phil, we put together a wonderful brand and formula for starting out that kind of kept me. It kind of avoided any type of mood swings that I can have. And the story was crazy initially because a gentleman by the name of Peter, who's the former chairman of a lot of philanthropic work that I've been doing in the community for over 20 years. Mr. Greer, he basically, we've been talking about this cannabis thing and get me involved with this for quite some time. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm here in Montel is up in Massachusetts. He said, oh, get out of here. I said, no, I'm serious. So I think we had his wife Gussie. She looked up, did some interviews, some research on you, and we found out that you was going to be at a facility up in Massachusetts. And so Peter goes up there and you're so busy he can't get nowhere near you. You're talking and you talking about the product and what the plant does and how it heals. And he ends up going to a food truck and he meets a guy named Phil from Freshly Baked. So he thought Phil was trying to sell him a plate of food or something, So he was like, I said, no, bro, we trying to get in touch with Montel and see if we can get some support. And you met Phil? He said, yeah, I met a guy named Phil. And man, it turned out he pitched the story to Phil. Phil said, listen, I got him. And I just want to, I'm forever in debt to Phil. We just starting out. This is a brand new brand, and we really looking to have a huge impact into the community. But you know, I takes my hat off to Phil and the freshly baked team because, you know, it's very challenging, Montel, for social equity individuals to have a fair shake, in this industry here. And it's like, you go through so much to bust your behind to get a social equity license. And it's like once you get the license, you're somewhat on your own. And in spite of all the challenges that you're going through and the struggles that you're going through, for a brother to reach in and help another brother launch his brand. Phil is American hero. Him, Jenny, the whole freshly baked team, they are American heroes because not I never heard of a social equity brand, and the challenges that they're going through and reaching back out and partnering and launching, brands and whatnot. So my hat goes off to Phil wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. I would echo that without a doubt. truly, Phil, here we are, touting your, giving you accolades. But the truth of the matter is, there are few people. I've been all over this business for now close to 22 years, and I don't think that there are that many of you out there who actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So, hats off to you. And I think everybody out there who's tuning in right now should, very clearly understand. Why don't you give them some information about what Freshly Baked does, my man? What you've been doing? How long you guys been in business?
Yeah, sure. So we started in 2018. Jenny and I were, basically looking for a way to sleep at night. And we didn't want to be smoking at night. So we started looking into edibles. And that's how we got into the edibles game and got into the cannabis industry. To Terrence's point, and, he's heard a lot from me and you too, Montel, the promise of equity just isn't there in the industry. It's not, it's nowhere in the industry. It's been very hard to operate with essentially no money and no capital to get where we are today.
And
And
what we should do is explain something to people. I mean, here we have an industry that since 1937 was made illegal, and then um, really since 37 and until recently, you know, um, the numbers are so desperate it's ridiculous. I mean, African American people make up less than 13% of this population, yet we have been approximately 70% of those incarcerated for 65 to 70% of those incarcerated for some sort of cannabis violation, and most of them low level. Um, we have an industry right now that is literally I think this last month just cleared for this last year $30 billion in legal sales. $30 billion. There's more cannabis sold in America today legally than chocolate. And I'm not talking about chocolate cannabis. I'm talking about chocolate bars, Hershey, Milky Way, all that kind of stuff. There's more cannabis sold in America than milk. If you look at the amount of milk sold in America in every grocery store across the country, how many kids eating cereal, how many people drinking milk, there's more cannabis. There's more, I think, $18 billion in total milk sales in the last year, $23 billion in total sales of energy drinks. We know for a fact that this year, cannabis just now surpassed cigarette smoking. There are more people smoking and utilizing cannabis legally in America today than are smoking cigarettes. And when we talk about the legal market, we're talking about 30 billion, but we also know that the illegal black, and I hate using that term, the illegal market, the gray market, there are still, depending on who you listen to, there was probably 50 to 60 billion dollars in illegal sales last year. $90 billion, making it one of the biggest, most lucrative crops in America today. And then when we look at the fact that right now in the legal markets across the country, less than 5% of that is represented by people of color.
it's a shame, Montel, and it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. And one of the things that Jenny and I promised ourselves that we got into this industry that we would do our best to reach back and help folks come up, and we have. With Terence and other small brands that we launched, female
Myself, yep.
brands. So it's been very important to us. But the support that we've gotten in the industry has been lacking. We've gotten a lot of lip service when we were getting in here, that folks that said they wanted to work with us, that said they wanted to work with small companies, black-owned companies, female-owned companies, veteran-owned companies. The problem is when you get there, you're like a unicorn. So when you actually get to the door with your license, they're shocked that you're there, and it's like, wow, we've said that we're going to help you, but now we actually have to, and that hasn't been the case. I've gotten stuff from dispensaries where when we first launched, it was us like grinding, and granted we still grind, but we have folks now. But those conversations with dispensaries where I call and I say, would you like to support a black-owned business? I don't care about that. Would you like to support a female business? I got one of those. How about a veteran? Yeah, okay, maybe. Like those are the types of stuff that we get when we contact dispensaries. Now, we have some dispensaries that have been amazing partners, but the majority of them are in this to make money. And I get it, capitalism, we're all trying to make money, but this industry was based off the backs of black and brown folks that were just like Terrence, just like myself, who were affected by these drug laws, and we're not making the money that we should be. We're not getting the support that we should be. So we still have a long way to go, especially in Massachusetts. There's very, few of us that are black-owned businesses and black-run businesses. There's a lot more that needs to be done, especially to supply a diversity. If you go to look at some of these shelves and and brands that are on some of these dispensary shelves, you'd be very hard pressed to find minorities on those shelves. Now in Massachusetts, we only have about 30 companies that are licensed social equity. Out of I mean it's getting up there now, maybe over 1,000 now that are licensed, not operational, but it's still very much lacking. Capital is tough for everyone, especially for Black and Brown folks. So for us, helping someone like Terrence to get into the industry, that's what we all should be doing. Supporting folks like Terrence. We should be supporting companies like Freshly Baked, companies that actually have missions and don't just say they have a mission. They actually are doing things like Freshly Baked is doing, like Terrence has been doing for years. So right now, we're super excited for T. He has a great product. We go out and we get live resin for Terrence's products, indica based. Terrence, again, formulated this himself, trying different products. He wanted to see what would work for himself. We also put 2.5 milligrams of CBN into his gummy that have seemed to give him some pain relief and that indica feeling so he can, be relaxed, also potentially sleep at night. So we've been very proud of what we've been doing for Terrence. And there's no reasons why big corporations can't be doing the same thing for Terrence and any other folks that have been disproportionately impacted by the industry. They're not doing it because they're only focused on money at the end of the day. They actually don't care.
That's right. And then the brand again, one more time, is called IRONSYDZ. Is an edible gummy. And is there any other? Is there future ideas for some other delivery systems, or are you going to stay down the edible road?
We're going to try to stay in the health and wellness arena, with respect to healing and healing individuals. But I wanted to piggyback off some of the things that you say. I began in the marketplace with this drug law reform thing for over 20 years. So I've seen what's what and who's who in the space of drug reform. And I see the suffering from folks being impacted by the justice system. And yet, like you guys say, at the top of the cannabis industry, since the big corporations was making millions and millions of dollars and they reaping the benefits. And the sad part about is that their skin does not look like ours. So, in terms of this booming so-called cannabis system, is really broken right now, my talent is fatally defective. And when you talk about paying it forward, how do we balance out a system that's now legalized, but yet so many folks have suffering
There are people
punishment.
still being arrested today
Yep.
It is
for minor
sad.
cannabis events,
It is sad. It is sad. And one of
and
the
they're
things,
mostly Black and brown.
yes, yes, Montel. And with respect to the product, our mission is to first always put out a quality product that can really help people heal. That's one of our first primary, responsibilities. And and the cannabis industry, it's lacking resources. Just starting out, we still lack resources on how to exactly dial in and find the right fit for muscular dystrophy. There's so much more research that has to be done, but we came a long way, and the plan is really helping. But equally important, Ironside, I named the brand off of the TV show by Perry Mason. The guy used to roll around in a wheelchair doing investigative work, helping the community and whatnot. So the mission is also to help people understand, even the benefits of cannabis. Because when I started, I had no idea how much the plant can help the body. I didn't know if it was some kind of drug. Most people think it's going to ruin your organs. It's like alcohol, or a lot of people just don't know. They miseducated about the plant. And the fact of the matter is that it can be used to treat millions of people with medical ailments, and for wellness reasons. And so I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to be involved with this. And we really want to utilize the brand to provide healing for the community, and really find a unique way to support people that have been left behind. That's one of the main things that we want to do. We can't save everybody, but Ironside brand and the Ironside team, we would like to lighten the load for folks who deserve a chance, but that has been left behind in this industry.
And Phil, like, what are some of the ways that people could actually help out when it comes to supporting social equity brands?
Sure. I think the most important thing, honestly, Montel, in the industry is to take a look at where you're buying your cannabis from. What is their mission? Who are they carrying? If you look on the menu and you don't see one brand, one minority brand, then you know immediately there's a problem. So looking for those type of brands like IRONSYDZ, like Freshly Baked, talking to these dispensaries and asking them, hey, why aren't you carrying these brands? What is your mission? Being a conscious consumer is super important because at the end of the day, even if we have amazing products, and Freshly Baked last year, we did amazing in the state of Massachusetts last year. The Q1 was a little different. We're starting to trend back up, but at the end of the day, regardless of what the product is, and I hear people online, well, the cream rise to the top, and the products will speak to themselves. Yes, in a perfect world, just like in a perfect world, Terrence Stevens wouldn't have been in prison for 15 years. In a perfect world, you're right, that is the case, but it's not. This industry is driven by money, and when a company comes in and they have, there are companies here in Massachusetts that are spending upwards to $1 million a month on marketing. At the height of Freshly Baked, we had a $5,000 budget on marketing. Okay, I can't go out and buy 3,000 T-shirts and hats and jackets and sweaters and start handing them out to all these bud tenders so they support us. The directives need to come from the owners. Just like at Freshly Baked, we have a directive at the top from Jenny and I to support small businesses. So when you go into a dispensary and they're not carrying those types of brands, it's because at the top, there is no directive going down to say, hey, we want to be supporting some of these small companies. So at the end of the day, money rules. It's not always about the product and the quality of the product. Sometimes it's just about some of these larger operators coming in and offering dispensaries deals that they can't give up, like basically free product to gain market share. That's how we're all getting pushed out, and that's how we're going to keep getting pushed out unless something happens.
And you're right. I mean, the big guys are coming in with big guns. They understand how they can work around some of the marketing issues that the state laws, put in place. Just like you just said, giving out swag to the bud tenders and giving them special, days here and there and doing things for them. It makes it difficult for the upstarts to literally even compete.
Right. And you know what? When you only have a handful of minority-owned brands, it is not hard to seek them out to get them on your shelves because we're all looking for the shelf space anyways. But it's not like there are hundreds of minority companies coming to dispensaries to ask to carry their brands. There are barely any of us. In Massachusetts, the first Black cultivator that was licensed is now out of business, and that is a travesty. And no one's talking about it. And I know these folks from the industry, regardless of what was happening behind the scenes. If that company was on every shelf like they should have been, if you are the only Black cultivator in an industry, you better be on every damn shelf. Companies should be reaching out to you to put you on the shelf, and you're growing fire, there's no excuse for it. And that's what's been happening here in Massachusetts, and you're seeing that in other parts of the country. When I open up magazines and I'm looking at who's on the cover or who's inside of it, first of all, it takes money to get into those magazines. Those magazines should be looking for minorities to put in there as well. But when you look at those, you're seeing that who's benefiting. Why aren't any of the top brands in this country minority owned? And don't tell me that there aren't any companies that aren't doing well that shouldn't be on that list. They should be. Freshly Baked was the #1 independent gummy manufacturer in Massachusetts last year per BDSA. That's a lot different this year as the bigger companies have come in with a lot more money to gain that market share. But on the national level, we have minorities that we kind of hold up, but they're not leaders in the industry. They should be, but they're not. They're just like pieces that we can kind of hold up to be like, hey, see that this works. But the fight doesn't start until you actually get the licensing. In Massachusetts, I talk about this a lot. To get the license, that's just the march to the battlefield. That's all that is. Once you get the license and now you're an operator, there is no more support. Nobody cares once you get the license. You're here, it's like, well, now you got your shot, get in there. That's not good enough. That's not good enough, especially when you have folks that are in this industry with millions of dollars that would have been calling me a drug dealer 4 years ago. And I've had
the same people who are selling product right now would be calling you a drug dealer.
Yes, the same people that are making millions of dollars off cannabis 5 years ago would have just called me a drug dealer. And anyone else who was of brown skin that was in the industry. And that's what we have right now. We're glorifying people that have no business being glorified in the industry. We should be raising up folks that have been disproportionately impacted like the promise of the industry has been. And when you see federal legalization come down the line, all these lobbyists, that's what they're doing right now. They're saying, we're going to help people. We're going to help these brands. This is what we're going to do. We're going to donate here. We're going to donate there. You know what? The easiest way to help minorities in the cannabis industry is to put their products on your shelves. And don't tell me you can't, because you can. I'm in the industry. I get it. Now I have many SKUs. You don't need all of them, but I promise you that if you're working with me, I will find one of my SKUs that will move in your stores. And we have plenty of folks that our products fly. So don't give me the excuses. I'm just tired of hearing all the excuses. I want to see more support and I want to see more action.
Absolutely. And Terrence, you must be working on other things than just IRONSYDZ. What else are you working on, my brother?
Yes, right now we just putting the main focus on Ironside and really trying to find a way to really give back to the community and really see to it that individuals like Phil in the social equity arena, get a better fair chance of succeeding at what they do. And so, we look at Ironsides as a brand who our stakeholders are really the people in the community and the people that we willing to help. And so that's basically what we focusing on. We actually probably gonna maybe do some patches or some other products on the line to really get it going. But the main thing is staying true to the brand and helping the individuals that's been left behind.
And Montel, I just wanted to add to that really quick. Like in Massachusetts, we have positive impact plans where a company is supposed to be supporting, some type of initiative in the community. They have guidelines around it. It's supposed to actually be folks more who are disproportionately impacted. But I get it. Sometimes there are other missions that are important too. I think that in the industry, when it comes to supporting a brand, Terrence and myself, we are a positive impact plan. That's who we are. So if you're a dispensary and you're supporting us by putting our products on your shelves, you are supporting folks that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Like Terrence shouldn't have to go out and start, finding groups. He is the group. Terrence is the group that should be getting the help. He was in prison for 9 years. He is the one. I was arrested for cannabis. I just barely got into the Marine Corps. I wanted to be law enforcement when I got out. It didn't quite work out. And then here I am now. So when you're supporting companies like us, that's what you're doing. You're supporting folks that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you should be doing.
What do you see the future holding, Phil? I mean, crystal ball me? What about the next couple of months? We've spoken many times, but what do you think is going to happen? Because as I look at, it's so funny. 3 months ago, just 3 months ago, I'm just talking about, back in, February, end of January, it looked like the industry was having some difficulty, and then all of a sudden the numbers come out that difficult, and the industry is having difficulty because all the states, a lot of people don't understand, is that as states come on board, these states are crazy in the way that they tax the legal product, the way that the hoops that they force producers to have to jump through to be able to get those products to the shelf. Um, I thought that it was going to actually help continue to constrict the industry, but instead of constricting, the industry is blossoming. I mean, come on, man! $30 billion last year. It was $25 billion. So that's another $5 billion in less than a year. This is a huge, just an immensely successful industry. What do you see happening in the next couple of years? Is it just going to be money going into the pockets of just a few, or are we going to start to see this industry expand the way it should?
Well, I think if we don't see some, drastic changes from each state and the bodies that control, who they all have very broad discretion. As you can see in New Jersey, I think they literally told Curaleaf they were out on a license and they was able to give it back to them. These bodies have broad discretion on what they can do. If they don't start putting in more social equity initiatives like inventory requirements, it's something that I'm looking to fight for here for Black and brown owned companies, social equity owned companies, putting in requirements 10% of a dispensary's inventory going towards equity companies, which is nothing. You're going to see more equity companies like that First Black Cultivator here in Massachusetts go out of business. I mean, it's been very tough for freshly baked. It has not been easy. And when you're in other states and, things that I hear when someone's in California and they look at a menu and they get over here and they're like, oh, it's the same menu. That's a problem. That means the top brands, they're not top brands because they're not. Those top funded companies or multi-state operators, yeah, they are taking over menus all over the place because these dispensaries see a product in California, they come back and they want to put it on their menu here instead of looking at the local companies and supporting those local folks. So if we don't see a change here coming up, we're not going to have anyone in the industry that's black and brown at some point. The opportunity is there. We can start making a change now, but if we don't do that, we're not going to see any of the small local operators, social equity operators in the industry anymore. It's going to be like every other industry where it's only the big boys that are in there playing.
Absolutely. And Terrence, how about you? I mean, I know you're going to be, of course, you just said you're pushing your brand forward, but are you still speaking out now about the injustices inside the penal system?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We still speaking out about, the injustices of incarceration and the felt war on drugs. And with respect to the future, we have a few things on the horizon from a disabled perspective. We trying to launch of Ironside adaptive brand where we trying to design some clothing that just make a little bit more easy for people with disabilities to get dressed. There's all type of different challenges that we go through. And we also are looking to do a social documentary on the cannabis industry and how Ironside will be trying to lead this charge to promote social equity and really give back to the communities where it most needed. It could be opening the kitchen so that people in the neighborhood can eat and just doing things that, just taking a real grassroots perspective from a cannabis uh, point of view and really, really giving back to the community. So I'm very excited for what the future holds, and I look forward to moving forward, Montel.
Absolutely. And I mean, Phil, I'll go back to you one more time and just ask you, it's like, do you have are you anticipating or are you looking, favorably at this next 2024? I mean, that both sides, whether they be Republican or Democrat, they're all going to talk this trash about, moving the needle and the pendulum in the right direction. Yet we may end up with the same thing that we just had happen with this last administration, where they talked all kinds of trash while they were running for office, and they've gotten there and ain't done a damn thing.
Yeah, we talked about this before, and you know what? I am not optimistic at all. I'm not optimistic at all on any type of federal legalization. I really, at this point, don't know what's going on. I think I might have read an article the other day where there might only be like literally a handful of states left that don't have some type of legalization, whether it be medical or rec. And on any other issue, there wouldn't be a problem here. But I think at the end of the day, I think it all stems off of, you know, how can we control an industry that is saying that we need to uplift equity applicants, folks that have been disproportionately impacted? And I think at the top, these brands that have all the money and control, they don't actually want to do it. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I can't say on a local level though. I am optimistic just because we're putting in the work, and I think we're finding more people like Terrence, supporting folks like Terrence. That always makes us feel good. And folks, more folks need to speak out. And Terrence has a big voice. And the more folks like Terrence and myself, and you, Montel, which you've always spoken out about equity, the more folks that can speak out about it, we can make some changes. But we have a long way to go. We really do. We still have a long way to go.
Definitely have a long way to go. Well, you always have a home here. You know that, of course, Phil. But Terrence, you always have a home here. You'll come back and chat a little bit. Tell us what's going on. Let us know what you're up to. We'd love to have you back. Anything else either one of you would like that?
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Montel, we're really trying to find a way to hold these politicians accountable. They really need to do more than lip service. There's a lot of suffering that's going on from people that has been disproportionately impacted, and we have to find a way to break the cycle. I've been very appreciative. We have some good, team players on our side. I'm trying to start like an Ironside Warrior type of committee, the Ironside Warriors, and people that's really banging the pavement to make change, and hopefully this can be the beginning of something that can grow and have a significant impact in the communities of color.
So, how about you, Phil? Anything else you want to add?
I think we've kind of hit on it, Montel. I think for me right now, it's the story of Ironsides. This is what the industry should be about. Folks should be supporting people like Terrence Stevens in the industry. These should be the faces of the industry. And right now, we're not seeing that. Honestly, just personally, I just don't think enough people actually give a damn. I don't think they care, and that's what it comes down to, which is sad. Because when you hear stories like Terence's, I don't know how you can't care, but at the end of the day, I just don't think they care, and I just want to see more direction from the top of these large corporations coming down the pike, saying, "Hey, we need to be supporting minority-owned companies, social equity-owned companies, female brands, veteran-owned companies. We need to see more of that. If we don't see it, it's not going to happen." So I'm going to keep speaking out about it. I'm going to keep being honest about the industry. I know everyone says they're doing well, but I know damn well 95% of the companies, whether they're large or small, aren't doing well. We get taxed the hell out of 280E. You've seen articles where there's like more than $500 million owed in taxes right now. If folks are doing well, they'd be paying their taxes. Freshly Baked was up on all of our taxes last year, and we're about to be up on all of our taxes again this year. So we're fighting. We're in the fight. We're doing our best, but the industry has a long way to go. And if the larger companies that you're seeing are closing down, shutting down operations in states, shutting down cultivation facilities, that only trickles down to the smaller guys. So we need even more support as we see the industry start to collapse in on itself, honestly, because we're going to be the first ones to go. Stuff rolls downhill. When a large company isn't doing well, they come out, they start putting more money into marketing. They start giving away more product for prices that I just can't compete with. They start giving better terms, right? They start raising more money, the things that we can't do as a small company. So until we start to get those directives from large companies that actually want to support us, and these bodies in these states who are actually looking at dispensaries menus and not just like weird, data that they throw up there that might look good, but if you actually look at menus, who is actually getting supported? I'm at the point where, to me, it's like, does it matter if you actually get a license when you're going to get crushed once you get in here? Massachusetts, I was just, from the state, I was put on the Cannabis Social Equity Advisory Board. We have $30-40 million in that fund that 5 of us are going to be working with the state to kind of give the folks that are trying to get into the industry, equity companies who are getting in, who are already in. But how can we in good conscience give money to folks when they get into the industry that we know they're going to get crushed because they're not going to get the support from the dispensaries? So, we just got to keep fighting.
Got to keep fighting. Well, get out your digits if people want to be able to help or reach out to you. Where would they go, Phil?
Yeah, they can go to freshlybakedcompany.com, and you can reach out to us right through the website. You can check out Freshly Baked Company on all social media platforms. Please, if you are looking to support equity at all, if you're looking to support a small company, please support Freshly Baked, support IRONSYDZ, any other small companies you can find out there support. When I go to a dispensary, I say, who do you have here that's a small cultivator? Who do you have here that's a small local company? Look for those companies and support them because we need it.
So, Terrence, if people want to reach out to you, where would they go?
Sure, you can reach out to us at IRONSYDZ, spelled IRONSYDZ_wellness on Instagram, and IRONSYDZ, IRONSYDZ.com to hear more about the Terrence Stevens IRONSYDZ story.
And again, if they wanted to get more about your story, is anybody working on a documentary or anything like that about you?
Yes, we working putting that together now. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the company, but it's a national company, and we look forward to putting something very impactful by that will include a number of individuals as well as how I'm entreeing the IRONSYDZ brand to make a difference in the communities of color.
Wow, that's right. So keep us posted on that, my friend, and anything we can do to help you out and try to get the word out. And I'm hoping that all of our viewers out there will pick up the phone and call somebody they know that can help you with that. We'd love to help you. Okay. So, keep in touch, and I want you guys to be well, do well. And thank you for being a part of Let's Be Blunt with Montel today.
Yes. Thank you, Montel. You've been a huge inspiration for me. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, sir. And for all of you out there, make sure you keep tuning in. Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback also, so please send us your comments.